Hi everyone, I'm Phil and welcome back to the Who's He video podcast. Yes, it's been a while since I last sat down in front of a camera, but seeing as it's nearly Christmas, I thought I'd drop a quick vidcast to see the year out and recap some of the things that have happened in the world of Doctor Who. And what a year it's been. Well, while we've had a very small amount of Doctor Who on TV this year, namely Resolution of the Daleks and Doctor Who Flux, there have been some fairly seismic occurrences to do with the production, which I will come on to a bit later. But first, Doctor Who Flux. Now, I've covered my thoughts on this on our audio podcast, but while for me it didn't quite hit all the high notes, I still found it to be a very enjoyable run of episodes. It was probably the most daring plot arc we've had in Doctor Who in a long time, and I think the production should get a pat on the back for at least attempting to go big, especially as it was filmed during a pandemic and all the film restrictions that came with it. And no doubt though, this contributed to the shortened episode run of 6 episodes that we got this year. Now, while I feel that the episode run affected some plot elements, visually the series looked very impressive. Apart from some ropey green screen work in the opening scenes of the first episode, that is. But Doctor Who had never looked better, with some striking makeup designs for Azure and Swarm, and some impressive visuals of the Flux's destruction of the universe. I love the new looks on Tarans, but yet again they were used for comedy purposes. The scenes of them in battling the Crimean War on occupying Earth were very well realised. We were also introduced to a few new characters, such as Bellum Vinder, Professor Jericho, the Grand Serpent, and my favourite doggy, Carbonista. However, I have the feeling that we will see some of these characters again, as their plot arcs didn't really get the full time they most likely deserved, and they just sort of, stopped. So whether we get to see more of these characters in the upcoming specials or in a future series, well, that remains to be seen. And I still believe that with our universe all but wiped out by the Flux, a big reset button is going to be pressed by the time Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall bow out next year. Oh yes, Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall announced they were both leaving Doctor Who in 2022. More on that later. So, all being said, I thought this season was the strongest for Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, especially after a fairly bland first 2 seasons. It was different, but at the same time, kind of returned to Doctor Who of old with the one story told over multiple weeks. Unfortunately, however, and is often the case with recent series of Doctor Who, I won't be revisiting this series anytime soon. Perhaps when more time has passed and I'm feeling a bit more nostalgic, I may pop in the Blu-ray, but right now, let's move the Chibnall era along. Now, I'm going to pause things for a couple of minutes whilst we remember some of those people who we sadly lost this year from the world of Doctor Who. thank you to all those people and others who have contributed to Doctor Who. You leave behind a fantastic legacy and you'll be very much missed by all of us. Now, as I said earlier, Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall are leaving the show in 2022. Yes, in July this year, they both announced that they will be leaving Doctor Who with the last of next year's specials, which coincides with the BBC's 100th anniversary. Well, in fact, they've already technically left the show, as Jodie Whittaker has already filmed her last scenes. Now, I suppose that this announcement shouldn't come as a shock to many. It seems to be an unwritten rule for actors to leave the role of the Doctor after 3 seasons, and showrunners seem to leave not too long after that themselves. And it has to be said, this era of Doctor Who has divided fans like no other. With the casting of a woman in the title role to the appointment of Chibnall himself, opinions appear to be poles apart, and again, opinions are divided on them leaving the show next year. Some people are absolutely ecstatic they're leaving after what they perceive to be the worst run of Doctor Who ever, and others sad at their departure after what they perceive to be the best Doctor Who has been in years. Ever. So after that announcement, who will be taking over as the new showrunner? And who will be the new Doctor? Now, the question of who the new showrunner will be was for me the most important. They are the person who sets out the tone of the show, story arcs, casting, etc. And while a few names were touted to take over the reins, the one that excited me most was J. Michael Straczynski, the mastermind behind one of my favourite sci-fi shows, Babylon 5. Not only that, he was the co-creator of the Netflix series Sense8, which also features Doctor Who alumni Freema Agyeman and Sylvester McCoy. And he's also written for Marvel and DC Comics. A pretty impressive track record there, I think. But the fact that Straczynski himself approached the BBC for consideration perhaps highlights that Doctor Who is still a brand that gets people in the business excited. However, he's caught when unanswered by the BBC. Why, I thought? A writer-producer with a good track record in TV and comics who actually wants the job? The BBC must be mad. But in September, we found out why, as the BBC had already found their man. Yes, the quite frankly astounding news was announced that Russell T Davies will be returning as showrunner for the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who in 2023 and beyond. Consider my mind blown. Now, for the time being, this news appears to have united those divided fans with the opinion that RTD will be the saviour of Doctor Who. Well, I think this is not going to be the case. While it is fantastic that RTD is returning, let's not forget that the last TV contribution he made to the world of Doctor Who was Talks with Miracle Day, which quite frankly was bloody awful. But it does make sense to draft in RTD again to helm the show at such a critical point, namely the 60th anniversary. Doctor Who anniversary years are a big deal and carry one awful lot of expectation. To appoint a new showrunner with no experience of running a show like Doctor Who, and with a new Doctor as well, that is one hell of a lot of responsibility for anyone. So RTD is a safe pair of hands, yes? With people seemingly pining for a return to a style of Doctor Who like the Tennant years, the expectation that this is what we're going to get is fairly high. But I don't think this will be the case. Remember when RTD bought the show back in 2005? No more Gallifrey, no more Time Lords, burping bins and the farting Slovene. Oh, excuse me. RTD set his own template for Doctor Who, like every other showrunner before and after him. And RTD is not one to rest on his laurels. He'll want to do something radical with Doctor Who. So any thoughts of a return to the so-called glory years should be very much tempered. But one interesting thing has also been reported, and that is that we're not just getting an anniversary special. The phrase being used now is 60th anniversary series. RTD has very big plans, it seems. Also along the return of RTD, Doctor Who will be a co-production between the BBC and Bad Wolf Productions, headed up by former Doctor Who alumni Jane Tranter and Julie Gardner. What is even more interesting is that Sony have recently become a majority shareholders of Bad Wolf Productions, so there is now a major TV and film production company behind Doctor Who. Now, whether this is a good thing or a bad thing remains to be seen. The bigger the company, the more cutthroat they are, with a bigger demand of return on their investment. So I remain optimistic, but very cautious. However, the biggest mystery is who is the new Doctor. At this stage, there is no announcement of who will be taking on the role. But as usual, this hasn't stopped fans from predicting who'll be the new Doctor, with a lot of hope on Joe Martin taking on the role full time, and also the likes of Ollie Alexander and Lydia West being thrown into the mix purely on the basis that they have been recently working with RTD on It's a Sin. But whoever it may be, it's an exciting time to be a Doctor Who fan. And while a reset button may be pressed on the show, one thing is certain. Doctor Who will be sticking around for a few more years to come, and that can only be a good thing. Well, that just about wraps up this video podcast and also the video podcast for this year. All that's left for me to do is wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas and a very happy and let's hope a better New Year for all, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye for now.